Good afternoon everybody and welcome back to the channel. You're watching Pokemon Trainer Needs and this is episode 1 of TCGO Weekly, which is following on directly from Pokemon Weekly. If you haven't seen that yet, I'll leave a link in the description below. So, if you've watched Pokemon Weekly already, you'll know I talked about the fact that I've been testing a Turbo Flareon deck called Fireball this week. So, we're here on TCGO to take a look at that deck. I'll run you very quickly through all the cards in the deck and then we'll jump into a game. So, obviously in my channel introduction video, I said I'd be doing a variety of different decks. Some would be competitive picks, some would be like rogue picks on the other extreme end. This is more of a competitive deck, so we are bothered with this deck about whether we win or not. I won't say my record with this deck so far, just in case you haven't watched Pokemon Weekly yet, but I've certainly made some changes as I've gone along, and I think maybe we still need a few more. So this is my list so far anyway. If you do have any opinions about the list, please do comment below. Any help with this deck would be greatly appreciated. Okay, so, Pokemon line. We've kept it very, very straightforward, very simple. Flareon EX is the main attacker of the deck. Blaze Ball, 50 plus 20 more for each fire energy attached to this Pokemon. And it's got the neat little flash fire ability where you can move a fire energy from one of your Pokemon to this Pokemon once a turn. So, is excellent for helping us get set up early on. So run 4 of those just so that we've got maximum possible counts, and if one of them does end up prized, then we're not too worried because we've still got 3 in the deck. I run 1 Volcanion just as a way to recover energy, just in case. I also run 1 Volcanion EX if we need to get a little bit of extra damage just to knock out a very high hit point Mega Pokemon, for example. Then that is why that is in there. Steam Up, just a great way to be able to get that extra damage. 1 Hooper EX, this is how we're going to get set up, because ideally, turn 1 we want Ultra Ball, Hooper, and then Scoundrel Ring for Shaman, Flareon, or something like that. And then 2 Shaman EX, just using the setup ability to help us get that speedy start that we desire with this deck. So moving on to our supporter cards, in fact I'll just mention energy cards first. I've got 12 of those. I know some decks run 10, some run 11. I wanted to go 12 just so that we could have the extra possibility of hitting those max elixirs when we get them. So, supporter cards. We've got 1 Hex Maniac. I run this in case of Greninja. 2 Lysander. Now, I run 2 of these because, obviously, if you've got 3 Fire Energy on Flareon, but no Fighting Fury Belt, the math works out at 110 damage, which of course is just enough to knock out Shaman EX. So I run 2 Lysanders so that if my opponent has tons of Shaman in play, if you play something like Rayquaza or Mega Gardevoir that runs lots of Shamans, you can just Lysander, and that is game. So that's why we run 2 of those. 2N is just an alternative to Professor Sycamore if we don't want to discard stuff. Ninja Boy was a later addition to the deck. Not sure I'm still too keen on it because the only thing it's really going to be good against is Volcanion, so I could then switch from a Flareon to a Volcanion EX to take the knockout with the dual typing on Volcanion EX. But I think having a card just for one specific matchup, there's not much point. I'm pretty sure this slot could go somewhere else. So I think we are going to do that in a minute. We're going to get rid of that Ninja Boy. 1 Olympia. This was originally Pokemon Center Lady, but I changed it for Olympia just so I had an extra out to switching. 1 Pokemon Ranger. This is in case I run into the likes of Jolteon or Regice, because I've got no way around them. And 4 Professor Sycamore. I like to include the 2 full arts. Haven't got one in real life, but I have 2 online, so that's quite nice. Yeah, 4 Professor Sycamore, you can't go wrong. And then 1 Team Flare Grunt, because just being able to discard your opponent's energy is always a good thing. Item cards. I've got 1 Energy Switch. And I've got 1 Enhanced Hammer. 4 Max Elixir. 2 Switch. 4 Trainer's Mail. 3 Ultra Ball. And 4 VS Seeker. So with those basic item cards, I have gone very consistent, very straightforward. Max Elixir, Trainer's Mail, I've run maximum counts of those to give the best possible out to getting them in any other training cards that I need. 3 Ultra Ball will help me get that turn 1 Hooper that I so desperately desire. Energy Switch works well with Flareon EX's ability, so you can use the ability, use Energy Switch, and all of a sudden combine that with your energy attachment for the turn, and you've got 3 energy on your Flareon EX. And then 2 Switch, just so that we can get Pokemon out the active if they don't have Float Stones on. Just run the 1 Stadium card in Parallel City. this is a potential. I did run 2 at first. In fact, I actually ran 3 at first, but then quickly realised that Paralysis actually does hurt this deck because we are fire Pokemon. So I can limit my opponent's bench to 3 if I want, but then at the same time I'm also reducing my own damage by 20, which is not what we want. So I've literally just run a copy in here to counter the likes of Mega Rayquaza, Rainbow Road, Xenaeus, and Mega Gardevoir, just to be able to discard my opponent's Pokemon, or if I know that I've got a full bench with, say, Shavings and Hooper on, and my opponent's running things like either Grass, Water or Fire Pokemon, I can play the blue side on myself and discard the Pokemon I don't want on my bench. So, just a one-off copy, and of course can counter any of your opponent's stadiums as well. And then I run 3 tool cards in the deck. I run 2 EXP Share, 2 Fighting Fury Belt, and 2 Floatstone. Now, if you've already watched Pokemon Weekly, you'll know that the EXP Share were also a later addition, because after the second Flareon, I really struggled to get another one powered up. And EXP Share just helps us out a little bit with that one, just to preserve some energy. So say you've got 2 Flareon on your bench with an EXP Share on each of them, that's 2 energy you've preserved that you wouldn't have been able to do before. And then 2 Fighting Fury Belt is another way to boost damage. And then 2 Floatstone, 1 for the Volcanion, definitely. Basically just wherever I need to splash them, the Floatstones. So this is the list. I don't think it's quite perfect yet. In fact, we'll just minimise this because I want to take that Ninja Boy out. So far, it has not proved very useful at all. I think I did use it once to switch out Shaman for a Flareon, but I don't think it's worth the space. I'd rather put the a second energy switch back in, because I think we do need a way to get those energies in play. So if we just go energy switch here, if I can actually learn to spell. So here we go, we'll just throw one of those in so that we're back up to 60 cards in the deck. So we'll save that, that is the deck. If anybody has any opinions on this list, or can have any suggestions as how the deck might be improved, you know, comment below. I'll take all suggestions into consideration. Okay, so let's head straight over to versus mode now, and we'll dive into a game. So, standard format is where we need to be. Fireball, let's go. Obviously, also, if you've watched Pokemon Weekly and you heard me talking about my versus points total, obviously on the screen there it only said 75. That is because midway through the week I was recording data, the versus ladder reset. So some of the points I earned in the last week were a combination of the previous versus ladder and the new one. Right, I am playing against Jack Eon 93. And judging by the Poplio coin, I'm wondering if we might be seeing some Sun and Moon cards here. Haven't really seen much of the Sun and Moon cards yet myself. I will be buying a booster box, but I can't get that until I get paid in a couple of weeks. I have just bought the Sun and Moon theme decks, actually, and I am considering doing a little mini-series, like a little trilogy, with the theme decks, because I want to talk about theme decks in a future video, so I thought I could actually use the Sun and Moon theme decks, open a theme deck video, and just kind of talk 3 different separate points about theme decks. So that's something I'm looking forward to doing. They actually arrived in the post this morning, so it's all good. That was a mulligan from me there, and they are cool sleeves that my opponent has there. Understandably, because I only run 9 basic Pokemon in this deck, the chance of a mulligan is very high. So I think we could be hitting a few mulligans here before we can actually get going. There we go, there's a Flareon. Can't say that starting hand's that good though. That Trainer's Mail needs to give us an Ultra Ball or we're not going anywhere. That's another thing I did notice with this deck. Sometimes if our start's terrible, then the game is genuinely terrible all the way through. There's some, I think there's a few games I've done where I've just gone all the way through without seeing a supporter card. I mean, I've run plenty of them. Right, so we are seeing the Energy Evolution Eevee. Okay, so no Ultra Ball, but we do have a Professor Sycamore. I will quite happily discard my hand, because there's not much in it, to be honest. They're all splashable text, one-offs. So we'll throw the Volcanion on the bench, because I don't wish to discard that. And then we'll just play Professor Sycamore here. Draw a fresh hand of 7 cards. Now that's more like it. Okay, so what do we want to get rid of? I think don't really want to put the EXP shell on the Volcanion because I really want to put a Float Stone on there. So, I think we'll Ultra Ball and get rid of the Lysander, and I think the Fire Energy, because I don't really want to get rid of anything else that's in our hand. So, grab Hooper. Oh, and my opponent's conceded. I think maybe my opponents realised they were about to just get a load of Pokemon out. Well, that was no good. So, in that case, I'm going to jump into a second game here, because I didn't exactly get going there, did I? Really. Started off with a not-so-great hand, but the Trainer's Mail gave us a Professor Sycamore, which we absolutely needed. So, we would have gotten going, I think. So, since that first game was really something that didn't happen that well, let's head into another game. So my opponent this time is Bliblo. Some sort of dragon deck, judging by the types, but that generally doesn't tell you anything these days. Because sometimes a lot of the types in the decks are just splashable text, so might not be the main focus of the deck. So we did win the coin flip, and we get another mulligan. My opponent, on the other hand, did not. It looks like my opponent's got a reasonable start though, with an active and 2 benched. I think the most you could ever hope for, really, with my build is a basic Pokemon to start the game, and it would be Shaman, wouldn't it? Unfortunately, that is a risk, only running the 4 Flareon and the Volcanion and the Volcanion EX. We do run the risk of starting with our Hooper or our Shaman. It's kind of unavoidable, really. So, Rowlet. Okay. Well, we can get started straight away with an Ultra Ball. Get rid of Fire Energy and a Lysander. So, Fire typing is going to work rather well here. Now, the second Shaman is in the deck, so we can set up as we want to. So, we'll Hooper. Of course, my opponent won't have worked out really what we're playing at the moment, having started Shaman. So, we'll Hooper and then use Scoundrel Ring. And I'll do my favoured Scoundrel Ring and get 2 Flareon and a Shaman, so that we can draw maximum possible number of cards. This is a good hand we have here, actually. There's plenty that we can work with. So, bench Flareon. Bench another Flareon. Attach energy here. Max Elixir. And we hit the Fire Energy. So we'll attach that to here as well. Trainer's Mail. Ideally looking for something like a Float Stone. There is a Float Stone. There's also a Max Elixir. But I think we really need the Float Stone in order to be able to get that Shaman out of the active. This Float Stone really doesn't want to be selected, so I'll have to drag it down. Okay, so get the Float Stone on the Shaman, and then we can use our other Shaman to set up for 5. Maybe looking for an N or a Professor Sycamore here. Certainly another Max Elixir to get going. There's the Professor Sycamore. Of course, after all that, I drew a switch as well. So I'll bench the Flareon. Do you know what? I'm tempted to actually just pass here, because that Shaman's not going to get touched this turn, and I can just attach to the bench next turn. Yeah, I'm just going to pass. I don't think we need to do anything drastic here, because we've got the energy in hand for next turn, so I don't think we really need to play the Professor Sycamore here. I mean, I believe these Rowlet have fire weakness, they do, so we are going to be in a position where we can just smash Flareon next turn. So we see Float Stone, Acrobike. Now I am possibly at a slight disadvantage here because I've not really looked at the Sun and Moon cards yet or played with them properly yet. Well, I haven't played with them at all. I don't really know what I'm expecting. I don't know what to expect from this deck. that my opponent is running. It is my intention before next week's Pokemon and TCGO Weekly to actually study the Sun and Moon cards so that I know what to expect. I've watched a few pack openings and such, and booster box openings. Ooh, nice Ultra Ball. That Ultra Ball is my ultimate desired card from the Sun and Moon set, so when I get my booster box, I want me some of that gold Ultra Ball. Okay, so there's the Latios. And I did actually hear on the internet that the Latios was going to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Put together with, combined, that's the word I'm looking for, that the Latios was going to be combined with something from the Sun and Moon set. So, you'll have to forgive my lack of knowledge. Certainly on the run to Christmas when all the Sun and Moon cards were getting hyped and leaked, I was in work a lot of the time doing some overtime, so I didn't really have time to look at much Pokemon stuff. Are my opponent scoops as well? Okay. Well, I feel like we've been going for quite a while, but I still haven't actually been able to get an attack off yet, so... I mean, so far we've managed to set up okay. We've set the deck up, but we just haven't actually been able to do anything with it, which is a little disappointing, but I tend not to go longer than 2 games because otherwise the video is going to be ridiculously long, and obviously I know you all lead your own lives and don't have time to sit and watch like an hour-long video showcasing a deck where my opponents just concede. So I think we will leave it there. So I've shown you the deck and how it gets set up. See, now I'm about to change my mind again. Should I go into another game? See, we've probably been going for a good 20 minutes now. Okay, one more game. If this video gets too long, I do apologise right now. Come on, somebody needs to give us a game. Okay, we're now playing against Orly21. Let's hope this opponent can give us a good game. Of course, you watch, we'll draw dead now. So, flip heads. Well, click heads and hope we flip heads. We do, so we'll go first again. And hopefully this time we won't start shaming. Still got the mulligan though, so that was to be expected. So my opponent is definitely running a grass deck. They're also running Electrode. Okay. See, with the electric, my first guess would have been, after seeing the Electrode, my first guess would be Electrode Raikou, but why on earth would there be grass Pokemon in there? And this is a nice starting hand. We've got the Flareon, we've got the Volcanion, but that's just going to go on the bench. We've got 2 Trainers Mail, we've got Ultra Ball. Yeah, I'm liking this hand a lot. I think I will start with the Flareon though, because I don't really want this Volcanion to get stuck in the active spot, so we will start Flareon. We'll bench the Volcanion because, of course, between Flash Fire, Energy Switch and Attachment Return, we can still get a Flareon in the active powered up. Just waiting for my opponent here. There we go. So at least we only have 1 mulligan this time. I'm just going to select the bench Pokemon, or not because they don't have any. We'll put the Volcanion on the bench, click done, and we're ready to rock and roll. So my opponent starts Lone Voltorb. Well, there's the Energy Switch, so that's quite good. So let's train his Mail first. If I can hit a VS Seeker, that's what I'd be looking for. Because then you see now this way, because I found the VS Seeker, that means I can discard Sycamore and Olympia with the Ultra Ball, and then I'll be able to get the Professor Sycamore back. So, Ultra Ball, get rid of Professor Sycamore and Olympia. Yep, Hooper's there, and Shaman's there, and the Flareons are there, so Pokemon count's looking rather good. So, we can Hooper, and we can get our favoured combination of Shaman, Flareon, and Flareon. Not too bothered about getting the Volcanion EX. Really, that's only for matchups where I know I'm going to need the extra damage, because the thing is, this deck is built to 2-hit KO things rather than 1-hit KO, so as long as I've got my Flareons to do the damage, I'm quite happy. So let's train his mail. Ideally, we're looking for a max elixir here, and there is a max elixir. Okay. And we hit the max elixir. Now, I'm actually, in order to get maximum draw with Shaman, I am very tempted to actually use the energy switch here so that we can Shaman for 5. So I am going to do that. Select Pokemon to Energy 2. We'll go to the active. So then we can Shaman for 5. So this actually is the best game so far, I think, in terms of starting hands. We've started with our preferred starter. Well, I can't say that Shaman was any good, though. So now, I don't really want to discard 2 VS Seeker with the Professor Sycamore. But then, my opponent started Lone Voltorb, so you have to wonder what my opponent has in hand. Do I go with the N, or do I go with the Professor Sycamore? I think I'll go with the Professor Sycamore, because I've learnt too many times in the past. I've learnt the lesson the hard way so many times. If you've been on Team Lancaster Elite YouTube channel and you see the my Fear Laboratory deck in, I think it was episode 2 of Deck Talk with the Neat One, and I played a judge on my opponent first turn and gave them everything they needed. So that hand's not bad actually, a load of fire energy. So we can attach for turn. Trainer's Mail, please max elixir. Okay, no max elixir. So I'll play I've got a VS Seeker in hand. I think I'm just going to leave that Professor Sycamore there, because I think I'm more likely to play the N that's currently in my discard pile. So we'll just pass there. I've got the energy for next turn, so it's not like we could attack this turn anyway. So let's see what answer my opponent has. So it is Vileplume. Okay. Vileplume did cross my mind. So maybe it's Electrode, Raikou, Vileplume? I don't know. Have any of you come across a deck that runs Electrode and Vileplume in the same deck before? There's another Voltorb. The question is, does my opponent have the turn 1 Vileplume? Because I imagine my opponent my opponent must have some sort of main attacker to need the Evolution's Electrode. And I'd say that attacker has to be Raikou, really. So there's a Vileplume. I imagine there we go, see. Electrode, Raikou, Vileplume. So I was right with that guess. Now I'd imagine my opponent plays Revitalizers in order to get that Vileplume back. Acrobike, I suppose, is a good way to burn through your deck. What is it today about my opponent's conceding? But then I think my opponent only has 1 card in hand, and if that 1 card was not a supporter card, my opponent would just be in a position where I've got the energy and I just steamroll through all of my opponent's Pokemon. So, okay, today it's clearly not meant to be. 3 games, 3 concessions by my opponents. You've seen how the deck sets up, and of course the aim is to just 2-hit KO, and if I can get set up, then I can use the EXP shares to try to move my energy around when a Flareon gets knocked out, and just be able to cycle through and just hopefully get continuous knockouts. So this time I am going to leave it there. I'm not going to put you through a 4th game. It's obviously not meant to be today. But thank you very much for watching, and I'll be back next Wednesday with episode 2 of Pokémon Weekly and TCGO Weekly. I think for next week's deck I'm going to go Rogue, but not Silly. I think I'm going to go with a deck that's not seen very much. Still in the standard format, I'm going to go with a deck that isn't seen that much or seen hardly at all, but it's still good enough that it can't be classed as a silly deck where we just do whatever. So yeah, that's that. And I think that pretty much wraps things up. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed these first instalments today of Pokémon Weekly and TCGO Weekly. If you enjoyed this video, please give us that thumbs up, hit that like button. If this is your first time to the channel, please do subscribe. I'll be doing these videos every Wednesday, and if you've watched my other videos, you'll know that I've got other things going on. I open blister packs on the 1st and 15th of every month. I open booster boxes occasionally, so there's loads going on, so please do subscribe and you won't miss out on any of the action. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all soon.